Welcome everyone, my name is Asaf Paris. This is another Top 40 Theory video. Today I want to talk about the song Circles by Post Malone. Circles was written by Post Malone along with Billy Walsh, Louis Bell, Frank Dukes, and Kaan Gunesberk. Produced by Louis Bell, Frank Dukes, and Post Malone. Mixed by Manny Marroquin and mastered by Mike Bozzi. Specifically, I want to talk about the use of text painting in this song and how it's set up. I've made a couple of graphs about text painting. One was about Ariana Grande's Breathe In, and the other was about Good For You by Selena Gomez. So the purpose of this video is not to give another example of what text painting is, but I really want to focus more about how it's set up and the level of detail that goes into it, because that goes to a larger point I try to make in a lot of my content. I feature a lot of techniques, but more often than not, it's not which technique you use, but it's more about the attention to detail and how you get whatever it is you're trying to do to be as effective as possible. And I think this song is a prime example of that. So with that in mind, let me dive in. The moment where the text painting happens in Circles, it happens right here in this pre-chorus, right in the middle of the pre-chorus. So let me play that for you first. So it's pretty straightforward. You have a lyric that says, I can hear the echo, and then that's repeated by a literal sort of sonic echo. So there isn't much to explain in terms of the technique itself, but like I said, I want to talk about how it's set up to be as effective as possible. So one really important detail to take note of here is that the text painting itself is very faint. That echo, if it was just in isolation, it would be very easy to miss as a listener. Let's listen to that. Right, it's very low in the mix, it's in the background, lots of reverb, low volume, very easy to miss. So what the writers and the producers of this song do is they prime you as the listener to hone in and really hear it. And the way they do that is this. Like I said, the text painting happens in the middle of the chorus in this third phrase over here. But that third phrase is preceded by two phrases that are melodically identical or nearly identical to it. But on top of just having an identical melody, these phrases are structured in a way that's designed to prime you to listen to the specific part of the phrase they want you to focus on. And let's see how they do that. Let's listen to the first two phrases. They're melodically identical, and not just that, they also take on the same lyrical structure. So the text painting here is the echoes, and the echo is naturally a repetition. Each of these phrases has word repetition in that exact part of the phrase. Let's listen to that. That's one time. Here's the second time. A really effective priming, like using that word repetition that tells you this is what you're supposed to be listening to. And when the next phrase starts in the same way, you're going to be really paying attention to the important part of the phrase. But it goes even beyond that. In order to really put a spotlight on that part of the phrase, the second part of each phrase is made very distinct through several means. The easiest thing to notice is rhythmically, it's very different from the first part of the phrase. The first part of each phrase is all eighth notes. Then the second part goes to quarter notes. There's a rest in between, another two quarter notes. You can also notice that the notes are different. The first part of each phrase is only the note C. It's an eighth note run on the note C, whereas in the second part of the phrase, the notes change. They go to E and D. Metrically, the important part of the phrase hits on the strong hyperbeat. This is the strong measure. This is the weak measure. Let's listen to that again. Right? You hear that the special is on the strongest beat, and what happens before is the pickup. And lastly, and this is something I've talked about a lot, there's a type of hook, and this falls into that group, in which to make it as effective as possible, what you do is you isolate a couple of syllables, 2 syllables, 3 syllables, 4 syllables, and make them the core of your hook. And then to lead into that, you have a denser, maybe faster, maybe less singable melodic fragment or melody. I like to think of it as fueling the hook, or when it keeps repeating, I like to think of it as fueling and refueling the hook. So you have the fueling, and the hook, and refueling. And one more time, refueling. So all of this works together to really put a big spotlight on the second part of each phrase and the exact part where the text painting happens in the third phrase. So even though the volume is low, the echo is really backwards in the mix. There's, like I said, lots of reverb on it. There's the low volume. Everything about it is like kind of faint in the background, which is part of the text painting. The songwriters, the producer, really prime your brain as a listener to hear that text painting and to take it in. Whether or not you notice that it's text painting as a technique doesn't matter, but it's something that you take in and it's really effective. So that's it as far as the setup, the internal setup within the pre-chorus. But I want to talk about one more thing that helps it be even more effective. So as I said, this moment happens in this pre-chorus. It's the second pre-chorus, or the pre-chorus that comes just before the second chorus. One thing that's important about it is that this section is unique to the song. It doesn't have a parallel section. Most pop songs, if you have a pre-chorus before the second chorus, there'll be a pre-chorus before the first chorus as well, and there'll usually be a repetition of one another. That's kind of the convention. Post Malone has a different kind of what we call melodic math. Usually in conventional pop songs, again, that follow kind of the Max Martin school, there will be an internal structure that includes 2, sometimes even 3 melodies. They'll use AABA or ABAC, and then those sections will be repeated. Second verse will be a repetition of the first verse. The second pre-chorus will be a repetition melodically of the first pre-chorus. Post Malone usually does things a little differently. Within the sections, they'll be very repetitive. So sections will be AAAA or sometimes 8 A's in a row. In this case, it's AAAB, but still very repetitive. But then each section is going to be different. So he doesn't normally repeat the same verse with the same melody, only in the chorus. So why is it important that this section is unique to the song? Why is it a good thing that it's not repeating another pre-chorus? Because imagine if you had another pre-chorus with an identical melody. That presents a dilemma that I'm not sure there's a good solution for. Let's say you had an identical pre-chorus here, melodically identical. Okay, so do you use the same lyrics? Do you use the lyric with the echo? And then do you do text painting in both pre-choruses? I think that gets into overkill territory. Let's say you have the same lyrics, but then you only use the text painting in the second one. That would strike me as a little odd to do it just one of the times, even though the same lyric happens in the first chorus. Let's say you had different lyrics in the first pre-chorus, and then you had the lyrics with the echoes, and you did the text painting. To my ears, it would sound a little bit cheesy after you already had that kind of pre-chorus here, and then you had a similar pre-chorus here, and you do the text painting just at the end of that pre-chorus. It would sound a little, maybe random is the word that I'm looking for. So I think by just having it happen in this section, that's a unique section, it doesn't have a repeating section anywhere else in the song, the proportions are just right, and it works really well. So like I said, the main takeaway here, for me at least, is not, hey, text painting is cool, although it is, it can be. But the main takeaway is, look, this is a technique that can be very effective, but in order for it to be very effective, you got to really put in a lot of work to highlight whatever it is you need to highlight and to prime your listener to really take in whatever it is you're trying to do. So I think I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, feel free to leave them, and I'll try to reply to everyone or however many I can. Asaf Paris, Top 40 Theory. I'll see you in the next one.